Now that 100 Ghost Stories My Own Death is completed, I really can't thank you all enough for listening to my narrations and dubs of this manga by Matano Anji. I was thinking about covering all of the prologues before the stories, the ones with the little boy, in one cohesive video. Let me know what you think and if that's something you would be interested. If so, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, without further ado, here is a mega collection of stories from it that I've hand-chosen. I hope you all enjoy. Story number 1. Bug. Our story begins with a young lady at her computer desk. She plugs in a pair of headphones and seems to be concentrating intently. Through the headphones play a voice.
There, we have a hit. It's in this one.
And then, just like that, it goes blank. The girl shrieks in frustration and slams the headphones against the floor. For you see, this young lady is a big fan of the super pop star Tsukasa, and she really thought this strange method would work this time. In the middle of the night, she runs as fast as she can and rings the doorbell of someone's apartment unit. The door ever so slowly opens and a man's voice answers. "Welcome. Please come in, Miss Shimizu." She quietly enters into the pitch-black room as the door shuts behind her. And then, the lights are on. Already been a week, has it? Eavesdropping. Theft. What kind of tools will you be looking for on this fine day? She answers to him. "I need a bug." "So I take it the bug I gave you last week didn't quite hit the mark." "Yeah, they broke it right away. That makes 2 gone now." "That's so. This could be really tricky then." She looks at him with a puzzled and anxious look. Then he says to her, "Must have some kind of device that can detect electronics like our bug. The next one is doomed to be found as well." But even if it's doomed to fail, I want to try one more time, please." "In that case, would you happen to know of magical tools, miss?" "Magic? Right this way," he elucidated as he slowly scraped his fingers against the doorway, opening it slowly and announcing, "The key factor determining the effectiveness of magic tools is based on the user's emotional state. And I would reckon you're in just the right state of mind." He stands there nervously. "As long as you pay the price the magic tool requires, they can be extremely effective. Enough so that they ignore all reason. This here is a popular one called the Love Potion. It would make him look exclusively your way. But it might be difficult to use it on the recipient in this specific case." She glares around his magic shop, fixated on a particular object, called, "That one there is the life knife. Anything you cut with it will keep on living, as if nothing happened. Previous buyers of this item have used it to cut off the head of their cheating lovers and keep it alive, so no one else could have them." She stands there thinking for a second and then she says, What about something to eavesdrop with?" I want to hear what he's saying. The guy I like is a super popular streamer. He belongs to everyone. I could never keep him for myself. I want his life to go completely unchanged. The only thing I need is to hear his voice close by, like he's speaking right in my ear. I apologize to say this, but we don't carry any magical tools that are made for eavesdropping. The woman stands there, dropping her head, as tears begin to stream down. But then she raises it and says, "That life knife you called it, if I use it to..." The two of them begin whispering to one another as she discusses her potential plan. He says to her, "That would certainly be possible." Several days later, "Tsukasa, a ton of fan mail came for you." "Let's go." "Could we stop asking this to be brought to your home? There's been people trying to spy on you." "Quit stressing. We ran everything through the metal detector." "Oh, this thing's cute." He grasped it in his two hands and carried it over to his nearby desk, placing it next to a potted plant. "Yeah, it totally matches the vibes in here. Maybe over here instead." How about here?" "Yes, I can hear him. It's like he's right next to me," he said, as the life knife appeared right on her desk. "Where should I put you?" Blood. Then, he tipped the stuffed animal over and noticed blood seeping through the bottom. "What the..." Using a pair of shears, he snipped it open. And what he saw, he couldn't believe his very eyes. For you see, inside that stuffed animal was a pair of bloody ears. Ears that belonged to his biggest fan. Story number 2. Our story begins with a young boy looking through a scrapbook at what seems to be his mother, as a tear drips on the page. The boy's hand trembles as he writes a note onto a page of paper that reads, "Dear Mom, what happened to you? I'm so lonely." Signed, Kokoro. He tapes the letter shut, placing it between his memory book. But that is when his father stops him, yelling,
"Hey, I told you to put that away."
The father grabs the memory book, staring at it intently for a moment, and then sliding it into the bookshelf. Later that night, when Kokoro looks at the book, he finds a letter inside, signed, to Kokoro. He quickly opens it up and begins to read. It says, "Dear Kokoro, congrats on turning 6. Sorry that the 3 of us couldn't be together for it. I'll talk to you again soon. There's so much I want to tell you. From Mom." Kokoro looks at it intently, and then he yells, "Dad! I found a letter from Mom!"
"What? That can't be."
His father stares at it for a moment, and then utters,
"Quit it with these ridiculous pranks."
And then the boy breaks down and begins to cry. "Since then, my mom and I would send a ton of letters back and forth between us. And as I got older, and older, I gradually realized something. The one who's been reading the letters is my dad. One day when Kokoro returned home,
My exam results. We don't have any money. If I don't get a passing mark, I can't go to college.
And so, he delicately opens the envelope, taking the result out. And it reads, fail. Sweat drips down his face as he stares at it nervously. Then his father walks in.
What's the matter?
I didn't make it into college.
Huh? Someone as slow as you shouldn't ever have high hopes. Now get a job and start supporting this family.
And then he slammed the door behind him.
If I just lived in a normal house, I would be able to go to cram school like everyone else. I could focus on my homework instead of having to do all the chores. Go to hell!
Kokoro then made his way toward the memory book, and inside it was an envelope. He nervously approached it, grabbing it in his hand and ripping it open. The letter read, Dear Kokoro, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything you want. I know things will work out for you. From Mom.
It's not fair. Damn it.
Time passed by, and Kokoro's father sat at his computer, drinking nothing but alcohol.
Whatever Dad went through, the letters, they always kept coming.
Until one day, he sat, looming over his father, at his deathbed.
I've put you through so much you didn't deserve. I don't think I'll be able to write any letters from the other side.
I knew it was you the whole time, writing those letters.
Then, the heart monitor went flat. Time passed by, and every day, Kokoro would visit his father's shrine, lighting a candle and praying. But that was when, in a drawer, he saw something. A piece of paper.
What's this? A note.
It read,
Kokoro, sorry for all the trouble. Thank you for everything.
Signed, Dad. Tears streamed down Kokoro's face.
Why couldn't you have said anything remotely like that to me when you were alive?
As Kokoro had that solemn moment, and he continued to cry, that was when he noticed something. It was some more notes with his name. His tears slowed down as he rummaged through the drawer. But then, he looked back at the book, the memory book, and saw another letter.
When did this letter get here?
He opened it up and began to read. It read, Dear Kokoro, you've put up with so much for so long. Thank you for enduring. When you were little, you wrote to me and asked me why I died. I couldn't answer you at the time because the rules dictate that the dead can't say anything that could bring harm to the living. I was murdered by your father. From Mum. Those words rang in his head. I was murdered by your father. From Mum. Story number 3. Our story begins near high school when a young man bumps into another student. He falls to the ground. Is she here, or is she not? He picks himself up from the ground and walks toward the school. Either way, at the start of every day, his high school seems to be quite rowdy. In the morning when I come into class, he is greeted by a young girl.
In the morning.
He places his head up, staring into her eyes as sweat drips down his brow and cheek. She stares at him intently, and then he quickly turns away, making his way to his desk. Kaneko was the chairman of the disciplinary committee, and she never misses her duty to lead the morning greeting campaign. And in response, no one returns her greeting. For some reason, the atmosphere of the class made greeting her whenever we came in seem dull. That was the reason we gave. Last week, Kaneko lost her life in a car accident.
In the morning.
But now, no one else can see her or hear her. No one, except for me. Kaneko's obituary came out the next day. Ugh. I slowly opened the classroom door and was greeted by Kaneko.
In the morning.
Ah!
Hey,
What are you doing?
In the morning.
At first, she scared the hell out of me. I never thought I would hear her say good morning again. And slowly but surely, a sense of joy started to grow inside of me. The fact that she wouldn't let the morning routine stop with her death astounded me. Is she a ghost? Or some sort of illusion? In either case, I could see her being here right now because she had a strong desire to keep this routine up.
In the morning.
If she's a ghost, for her to continue greeting people into her afterlife, she must be an extremely studious person. That was when the teacher walked into the classroom saying,
okay everyone, please take your seats. Stand. Bow.
But something was very weird. Kaneko stared at the teacher intently. And then everyone bowed. When attendance is taken in the morning, Kaneko, possibly sensing that her duty has been fulfilled, has always went away until the next day. Let's walk back together. I don't wanna. That was when the student walked by his homeroom teacher. But strangely enough, Kaneko was following him. The boy's eyes followed the two of them into the staff room. Inside that room,
In the morning.
good morning. Why is she saying that, right? But then, in a horrific turn of events, Kaneko's head turned completely backward, staring at the student in his eyes. But strangely, the boy was now able to see some events from the past. Kaneko, come here for a second. Hey, don't you think you've been putting a half-hearted effort into your disciplinary committee duties? No one greets you whenever they come into class. Until you can get someone to return your greeting, greet every single student that comes into class before I take attendance. Is that clear? The student couldn't believe what he saw, sweat dripping down him profusely. But then his homeroom teacher said to him, "What's wrong? Do you need something?" The two of them stared at one another for a moment and then, "Sensei, did Kaneko really die in an accident?" In that instant, the teacher's face became engulfed in fear. And then, Boy quickly turned away, saying, I'm sorry, excuse me." He ran as fast as he could from the classroom and out toward his home. No one else was given the opportunity to see her, only me. Even if it was only because she was duty-bound, being called upon for some sort of purpose made me happy. Hanako was able to feel my presence, but the air of the class has always put me off, and I haven't been able to return her greeting. Unlike me, Hanako was such a strong person. I aspired to be like her. Watch all of this be a big misunderstanding on my part. Just because no one is answering her doesn't mean she's necessarily suffering. Nothing will happen to either of us. She just wanted to hear someone's voice. And yet, day after day, as the school days would pass, and I would enter into that classroom with her saying good morning,
In the morning.
I would just sweat profusely. But today will be different. Good morning! The class looked at him in the most creepiest way. All of them seemed to think he was creepy. If only I had the courage to say it quicker. If I did, you might have still been alive along us today. Story number 4. Our story begins with a young father who is forced to look at a horrible sight of his wife and child massacred, blood splattered all over the floorboards and walls, as he watches in complete and utter horror. And then, he awakes, sitting up in his bed and getting out, ever so slowly making his way toward the door as the floorboards creak behind him. And as he opens the door, his son awaits him, giving him the biggest hug ever as he says, "What's wrong, Taiki? Did you have a bad dream?" But the boy simply says to him, "Hey, can I stay home from school today?" Are you feeling sick?" With a melancholic face, the boy turns his head left and right, and the father reassures him. "Then power through it. Exams are coming up, aren't they? Your mother and I are expecting a lot from you." The boy looked at him for a moment, and then formed a smile. But then, the man awoke again. The whole situation felt like deja vu. He was once again in his bed as he let himself out, walking ever so slowly toward the wooden sliding door as the floorboards creaked behind him. But before he could open it, he heard He found his son and his wife. She had slapped him in the face. "What's going on?" Time went by and eventually the father resolved the issue. He said, "Things may have gotten a little heated there, but I just had one of the worst nightmares of my life. So, it's nice to see the two of you acting so lively. Who knows, maybe I'm still dreaming right now." "What are you talking about?" The father went to pinch his face, pinching his cheek, but he was surprised. Sorry, but could you give me a good slap too? What? Please, just do it. But to his surprise, what the hell? I can't feel a thing. And once again, he awoke, but this time he was laying on the floor. Blood was dripping all around him. And once again, he saw his little boy and wife, the two of them having been brutally massacred, blood dripping in a pool all around him, as he thought, the same nightmare again. And then he passed out on the floor. Then he found himself once again in a familiar situation. Heike skipped out on school and his private tutoring. He was out messing around with his friends. The father sat there for a moment and then he said, "Is that true, Taiki?" The boy apologized to the two of them, and then the father interjected, saying, "You get it, right? We're only getting upset with you because you're so important to us. Please, don't do anything else that would make your mother or I worry more, okay?" Boy reluctantly agreed, "Okay," as the group of them began to smile. But that bliss was soon interrupted by the TV.
On to our next question. Why, oh why, do people have dreams?
The audience inside the TV thought for a moment, and then the man continued to speak.
The correct answer is for the purposes of consolidating information and escaping reality. Both of these are necessary for people, so you should never force yourself to wake up from a dream.
No, this is a dream. Once again, he found himself in that bloody room, looking over the massacre of his dear family. The same nightmare again. And he passed out once again. Once again, it was a familiar situation. He was inside his bed as he got out and ever so slowly walked toward the wooden sliding door. He stood there for a moment, calling his dear family's name. "Masumi! Taiki!" The two of them responded, asking what it was, as he ever so slowly opened the sliding door. And what he saw was his dear family. "Morning, sleepyhead." "Good morning." He stood there for a moment, as tears dripped down his eye in relief. "Huh? Why are you crying?" "I had a terrible dream just now. We're not in a dream right now, are we?" "Stop acting so weird, Dad." But once again, the TV was blaring.
In an incident that had taken place in the early hours of this morning where two parents and their son were found stabbed, we have now learned that the son stabbed his parents before taking his own life. Mayumi Ono, the boy's mother, unfortunately lost her life. The father is currently unconscious and in critical condition.
Everything went silent for a moment. All you could hear was the clattering of the family eating, as the father began to tremble, trembling so much that sweat dripped down all over him. But then he got his resolve, gripping his one hand, as his child said, "What's wrong?" He grabbed toward the remote, shutting off the TV, as he said, "Nothing. I was just thinking about how happy I feel right now. Oh, stop it, you. As the group of them all enjoyed their meal together.
Story number 5.
Monotropastrum humili are white flowers that quietly grow under the shade of trees. Due to their peculiar appearance, they're often called ghost pipes. This is a story from my childhood. Some people also believe that they grow above corpses. These things are similar to azaleas. Nectar from azaleas is sweet, right? My curiosity got the best of me, and then I grabbed one of those heads and began to suck the nectar from it. Whoa, that's sweet! But that was when I heard a voice call to me. Masa? Yo, Yota! What are you doing out here? I was visiting my dog's grave. There. Huh? Sorry. It's fine. What were you up to, Masa? I found something cool. Try slurping out of this. What? Just do it. And so, that boy began to slurp out the nectar from that head. That's good. Are there any more? A bunch are growing right here. Both of us continued to gulp down the ghost pipes. And as the two of them continued to devour them, more and more splattered against the ground. We're all out now. I want more. From then on, he and I would meet every day after school and head out to look for ghost pipes. But when we did, no matter how far we went, we weren't able to find ghost pipes anywhere. Oh, come on. It took so much effort coming out here, and there's nothing. You going back then, Yota? Well, ghost pipes. Just thinking about them. I remember at the time thinking that lately, no matter what I've been up to, I can't get ghost pipes off my mind. Anything I ate or drank, I thought, tastes off. It tastes wrong. My body would reject all other food, until one day, the two of us walked through the woods, and that's when I spotted a secluded alcove, bathed in soft light. A myriad of ethereal white blooms beckoned irresistibly. The allure of their sweet nectar surged within me, and with my friend by my side, we dashed toward the intoxicating display. Each delicate blossom, radiant and pristine, was a promise of unparalleled delight. We voraciously consumed them one by one, savoring the delectable essence that danced upon our tongues. The nectar, like liquid gold, cascaded through my senses, filling me with euphoria. Amidst this sensory feast and the sheer exhilaration, my thoughts stirred within me. This tastes even better than it did before, by far. And so, the two of us began to continue to consume that nectar until... Wait, look! Upon closer inspection, the once angelic plants revealed their origin. They sprouted from a corpse, their roots entwined with death. A shiver of dread coursed through us, prompting a hesitant step back. Human bones? Yet, despite the eerie revelation, my insatiable craving surged forth unabated. Mesmerized, I fixated on those bulbs. The addiction relentlessly and consumingly gripped me tightly, overriding the instinctual fear that had initially paralyzed us. Massa? And then, soon too, he reached for those plants, plucking them one by one and stuffing them inside his mouth. Yota, don't just stuff them all in your mouth like that. There are only so many of them. But despite my warning, he continued to consume them at an alarming pace. Hey, we're going to run out. But Yota wasn't listening. Yota, I'll run out. And so, I clutched a stick within my grasp. Time elapsed, and a new patch of bulbs emerged in my backyard, reminiscent of the haunting yet irresistible blooms from that distant alcove. Each day became like a ritual. I would visit this newfound sanctuary and partake in the delectable nectar they offered. The routine persisted, a testament to my enduring addiction to their intoxicating sweetness. Even now, as the days blend into one another, the allure remains undiminished, and the habitat of those ghost pipe continues to expand to this day. I hope you all enjoyed, and remember, ghost pipe should not be eaten. Please, do not attempt to recreate this.
Story number 6.
Our story begins with a clay sculpture that a young boy had created. Ever since I transferred schools, I haven't made a single friend. So, I made a friend out of clay when I was feeling bored. His name is Clayman. It was just a joke, of course. I got bored right away, then quit. But that was when he heard a voice from behind him. Hey, you! As he turned around, he saw that the clay sculpture was speaking to him. He couldn't believe his eyes or ears as it spoke to him some more. You, over there, spray some water on me. Can't you see? I'm cracking from the dryness. The boy thought that he had to be dreaming or imagining things, but as the situation sat in, he ran as fast as he could through the house, grabbing a squirt bottle and spraying water all over him. Oh, yes, that hits the spot. I couldn't wrap my head around it at first, but soon enough, the two of us became close. Thanks to Clayman, I laughed the hardest I have in ages. The two of them played together and smiled amongst one another. The next day, when the boy returned home from school, he heard a bunch of clacking of his keyboard and clicking of his mouse. It was the Clayman, and he was working on his laptop, researching something. Hey, don't touch that without my permission. You got it dirty. The Clayman spoke to him, his voice now more hoarse. Hear me out, Haruto. Based on my research, I found out that I'm a Tsukumogami, a spirit inhabiting an object. It's like I'm a god. Pretty cool, huh? But Haruto did not reply to the clay sculpture. Haruto, what's wrong? Are you in a bad mood? I'm talking of my friends from school, so could you leave me alone? But then, the clay soldier shattered his phone. You idiot! What are you doing? Friends? I'm the only friend you need. And are you sure they're really your friends? Who would want to hang around a guy who plays with clay? The two of them glared at one another for a moment, and then Haruto spoke. It's weird. I just feel like humans should be friends with other humans. At the end of the day, clay is just a toy to play with. Hey, wait, calm down for a second. If you put me back like this, I'll dry up and die. Please, just this once, open the box. I beg of you. Haruto stood there for a moment, staring at the box, wrestling with his thoughts. Ultimately, he decided to release the clay man. What he saw was that the clay man had transformed into a new form, his voice even more lower.
I look great, don't you think? I'm just like a human now.
But not liking the clay man's new form, Haruto immediately shut the box. I knew something was up with him. He threw the box containing the sculpture into the trash. Clayman truly terrified me on that day, so I threw him out. The next day at Haruto's school, he was greeted by a classmate.
Haruto, go and buy us some bread. We're friends, aren't we?
And so, Haruto went to the school cafeteria, fighting amongst the other students to get as much bread as possible for these so-called friends. Finally, he had gotten enough and began to make his way up the stairwell. The door to the rooftop, ever so slowly, creaked open, and a silhouette emerged.
Oh? Haruto. That was quick.
But little did they know, that was not Haruto, but the clay man. His countenance formed a sinister glare, as the male student looked at him in utter disgust.
The hell you supposed to be?
How gross. After those words, a strange smile formed on the sculpture as the student approached him, throwing a punch.
Say something!
But to this student's dismay, his arm got stuck within the clay as it twisted about, breaking each individual bone and causing the student to scream in agony.
Damn you!
A few moments later, Haruto had finally made his way up toward the rooftop, but what he saw was someone or something awaiting him at the doorwell. It was the Clayman, who had once again reverted back to its original form. Clayman? Why are you here? Don't tell me. You came for revenge? I came for my friend. Let's go home. But the boy looked at the doorway, and it was sealed with clay. The door? Why is it sealed shut? My friends are waiting for me behind it. He looked at the Clayman into his eyes as the entity uttered, "What did you say? I'm the only friend that you need in this world, Haruto. Haruto looked away for a moment as the clay man whispered into his ear. That's right, isn't it? The boy replied to the clay man saying, Of course it is. The only friend I'll ever need is Clayman.
Story number 7.
Our tale begins with a young girl and her father visiting an amusement park when she says to him, Daddy, I want to ride it one more time. He replies to her saying, Oh, really? Well, I suppose it can't hurt. Come right back to me after, though. But then, that's when he notices something and she runs off. Kane! But she doesn't listen. She grabs on to the ride, hoisting herself up, saying, Watch me, Daddy. But her leg slips when she tries to get up, and she falls toward the ground, and then... Time passes by, and the man holds a dear family photo in his hand, sweat dripping down each pore of his skin, and his hand quivering. I'm so sorry, Kane. I'm sorry. The man continues to sob as the wife leaves through the front door, slamming it behind. The man, you see, continued to drown himself in his sorrows, guzzling down drop of alcohol after alcohol. Few years pass, and the man finally has gotten his life together, and he decides to visit that amusement park once again, particularly the merry-go-round. He lays down a bouquet of flowers and thinks to himself, 5 years have already passed since the accident. Please, forgive me, Kane. All this time I couldn't bring myself to come back here where it happened. Then he notices a sign in front of the gate. Entry forbidden. He ignores the sign and lets himself inside, placing his hand on the very merry-go-round horse where it happened. That's when it appears his imagination is getting the better of him. There's blood on the horse. He walks up toward the stage. Oh man, it only feels like yesterday that we came here. And the wind continues to blow. But then, in a strange chain of events... This music... I thought the ride was inoperable now. But the music continued to blare. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Turned around, peering around the pillar, and what he saw was the silhouette of a little girl running around the stage. It had to be Kane. Could never forget those little buns of hair he had done for her that day. It was unmistakable. He chased after her with all his might, calling to her, Kane? But the ride continued to zoom around. It was beginning to be dangerous. The horses swirled around him at a tremendous speed. And then, on one of the horses, he saw her silhouette. It had to be her. He knew it. He thought to himself, Kane? But all she said to him was 2 eerie words.
Get out.
The words were otherworldly and not of her voice. He thought to himself and said, Of course. You have a right to be angry. It was my fault. Because of my carelessness, I should have come to see you so much sooner. She didn't reply, and the music waned on as the horses began to pick up even more speed. Then, one of them stopped behind him and said,
Get out.
Each and every one of the horses continued to utter those same two words, "Get out," each of them being to the beat of the music of the merry-go-round. The whole experience was completely surreal. The horses began to get anthropomorphic traits, and he saw his daughter riding on them. They uttered one after another,
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out.
He ran as fast as he could, trying to get off the stage, but then the wood snapped, his foot falling into the stage as he fell toward the ground. Thankfully, he landed off the stage as if something had given him an extra push, slamming his head against the metal bar. And then, the whole entire merry-go-round began to snap and come down, crashing toward the foundation in which it was made. The ride where Kanae's soul was resting is coming crumbling down. Hey, you! Get away from there! Quick! Didn't you see the off-limit sign? That thing had been on the verge of collapse for a while now, and you thought it was a good idea to just walk onto it? Goodness gracious. Don't you realize you could have gotten caught up and died under the debris? Then the man picked up his phone talking to someone. We have to get this cleaned up ASAP. The poor father. He thought to himself. Things were finally clear. He realized. Kanae, don't tell me that you... Story number 8. Just like the title describes, our story begins with a nesting doll waiting inside a storage unit. Why do I have to be the one to clean out the storage closet? Like, what even is this? Gives me the creeps. It's in the way anyways, so I'll throw it out. Huh? That was when the doll cracked open, revealing a smaller doll on the inside. Another smaller one like it came out? Well, you're not too big, so I can let you stay. Were these things called matryoshka or something? The outer shells can get this big. Huh? Stop! Our protagonist stopped for a moment, listening to the voice. It continued. I'm cold. Our protagonist looked behind him, but when he looked, he saw nothing was there. Wait, the doll. I left it right there, didn't I? Whatever. Talk to me. If it's trash, throw it away. I know. How long was I asleep? That was when he heard a strange rolling and rattling noise, and he noticed something peculiar about his body. He now had a huge gut. Whoa, I got fat. Did I eat too much for lunch? And so, he made his way into the other room, toward the scale, and stood atop of it. First it read 58.6 kilograms. But that number slowly began to skyrocket to 64.2, then 79.0 kilograms.
The hell, man? This thing's broken. My throat is hurting too. Maybe I caught a cold. He opened his mouth widely, but what he saw, he couldn't believe his very eyes. One of those dolls was inside his esophagus. He stared in the mirror, and it was now gone. Then he said to himself, "No, I must be too tired. I just need to sleep in my bed. My body is so heavy." He slowly opened his door and collapsed atop of his bed. Outside of his door, someone was knocking loudly and calling, "Open up! Open up! Open up!" Mom, you can open the door," the voice continued. "Open up! Open up! Open up! Open up! Open up! Open up! Open up!" That's when he realized it was coming from inside of him. His buttons began to pop until finally something bursted out, repeating that line over and over again. Our protagonist screamed, and then his body split right down the middle, just like one of those dolls he had found. Later that day, his mother called for him. "Takumi, you're going to be late. Takumi." She opened the door. When she peered inside, she saw her dear son collapsed headfirst on his bed. She said to him, "What's wrong? Why are you still in bed?" But Takumi did not reply. She continued, "Come on, you've got to get up already." But when she rolled him over, she saw a horrific sight. Takumi was split right down the middle, and inside of him was one of those dolls.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. I'd like to take this time to give a very special thanks to my Patreons and YouTube members: Sarah De Jesus, Motosurf, Cleo, Minue, Tago, Andre Wolf, Voodoom, Louise V, and Alex S. Thank you so much everyone, and remember, you're important and you matter. Have a great night everyone. Goodbye.